Lady Danny here, and when I told you the story about Dr. Caesar and plantain and how it afforded him his freedom, there were a lot of questions. So to contextualize all of this, I wanted to give you a little backstory. You see, Caesar's first mentioned in 1749, so this is colonial South Carolina. As with most slaveholding colonies, the slaves outnumbered the white. And although white supremacy was in full effect, let's be clear, they were very nervous about these Africans having the ability to kill or poison them. And that's why Dr. Caesar became so popular, because in their anxiety, they wanted to protect themselves from poisoning so that they wouldn't become a victim of a clandestine murder. And this was by no means a very quick turnover, you give us the recipe, we give you your freedom. First, they had to set up a legislative committee to see exactly what Dr. Caesar would accept as payment for giving up these simples and remedies. The irony is that these plants, horehound and longleaf plantain, were not native plants to South Carolina. They were plants that came from Europe. He figured out how to use them, so they had to create a legislative committee to A, see what it would take for Caesar to say yes, that he would give over the remedies. Then the committee had to agree upon what they thought Caesar's worth was. Then they had to confirm that John Nelson, who owned Caesar, would be willing to accept the amount that they came up with. And finally, they wanted to test all of the remedies that Caesar gave them. By spring of 1750, he was a free man. Once Caesar received his freedom, all of the remedies were published in the South Carolina Gazette. The full text was known as Caesar's Cure for Poisons, and that makes Caesar the first African American to have his medical findings appear in print. But by the following year, a new law had been passed, and it prevented any Negroes or slaves from administering any medicine to anyone, including other slaves, without the express permission of whites. By this time, Caesar was getting older and his health was in decline. He tried to protect his family by having a will drawn up. He had hoped that the sale of his earthly belongings would finance freedom for his wife. Sadly, his wife and daughters still belonged to John Norman. Even after the slave master John Norman's death, Caesar's wife Lily and daughter Hannah were still listed amongst Norman's personal possessions at the time of his death. There was another daughter, Lucy, and two grandchildren, Peggy and Little Caesar, but their whereabouts are unknown. And that's the end of the story. Healed many, became a published author, but still could not free his own family.